What's up, people? Yu-Gi-Oh! Master 88 here with another installment of the Linux Report. The earliest Linux distros before mainstream distros became so popular. Basically, what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a throwback article discussing the earliest Linux distributions. So basically, it says right here. In this throwback history article, we've tried to look back into how some of the earliest Linux distributions evolved and came into being as we know them today. And here we've tried to explore how the idea of popular distros such as Red Hat, Debian, Slackware, SUSE, Ubuntu, and many others came into being after the first Linux kernel became available. As Linux was intentionally released in the form of a kernel in 1991, the distros we know today was made possible with the help of numerous collaborators throughout the world. With the creation of shells, libraries, compilers, and related packages to make it a complete operating system. So right here we have the first known distro by H.J. Liu. The way we know Linux distributions today goes back to 1992, when the first known distro-like tools to get access to Linux were released by H.J. Liu and consisted of two five and a half inch floppy disks. So first we have a boot disk, and we got the root disk. Very interesting. The To install 0.12 on the hard drive, one had to use a hex editor to edit its master boot record, and that was quite a complex process, especially during that era. We also have number 2, MCC Interim Linux. Intentionally released in the same year as Linux 0.12 by Owen Lee Blank of Manchester Computing Centre in England. MCC Interim Linux was the first Linux distribution for novice users with a menu-driven installer and end-user programming tools. Also in the form of a collection of diskettes, it could be installed on a system to provide a basic text-based environment. MCC Interim Linux was much more user-friendly than 0.12, and the installation process on a hard drive was much easier and similar to modern ways. It did not require using a hex editor to edit the MBR. Ooh, interesting. We have another one. Tommo Linux. Tommo Linux was developed by NGs at Texas A&M with the Texas A&M Unix and Linux Users Group in May of 1992 and was called Tommo 1.0A. It was the first Linux distribution to offer the X Windows system instead of just a text-based system. So basically, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, this little thing right here was our very first desktop environment. Well, our first GUI environment. Very interesting. Really interesting indeed. Soft Landing Linux System, SLS. Gentle touchdowns for DOS bailouts was their slogan. SLS was released by Peter McDonald in 1992 in May. SLS was quite widely used and popular during its time and greatly promoted the idea of Linux, but due to a decision by the developers to change the executable format in the distro, users stopped using it. Oh well. Many of the, and it says right here, many of the popular distros the present community is most familiar with evolved via SLS. Two of them are Slackware. One of the earliest Linux distros, Slacker was created by Patrick Volkerding in 1993. Slackware is based on SLS and was one of the very first Linux distributions. Debian, an tentative by Ian Murdoch. Debian was released in 1993 after moving on from the SLS model. The very popular Ubuntu distro we know today is based on Debian. Very true. I am not gonna try to pronounce this one. I know. Number 5. Released in December 1992, Yadris. I apologize if I'm butchering the name. Yadriscoll, or whatever it's called, was the first distro to give birth to the idea of live Linux CDs. Oh, so this thing here is, it basically gave birth to the idea of live keys. Interesting. It was developed by Driscoll Computing Inc., founded by Adam J. Richter in Berkeley, California. It could automatically configure itself on system hardware such as plug and play, which is a very regular and known feature in today's time. The later versions of Driscoll included a hack for running any proprietary MS-DOS CD-ROM driver within Linux. Ooh, that is interesting. Oh, here we go. Their motto was free software for the rest of us. In the late 90s, one very popular distro was Mandriva, first released in 1998 by unifying the French Mandrake Linux distribution with the Brazilian Connectiva Linux distribution. It had a release lifetime of 18 months for updates related to Linux and system software, and desktop-based updates were released every year. It also had server versions with 5 years of support. Now we have Open Mandriva. And that's pretty much the article. So everybody, what do you think of that trip down memory lane? If you like these videos just as much as I do, smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and until next time, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master 88 saying see you later.